The Luminance Photography Studio in downtown Boston was the kind of place that won international awards and charged accordingly. Their waiting area looked like an art gallery, with stunning wedding photos displayed on walls lit by carefully positioned spotlights. Each image told a story of perfect moments captured by artists who understood light and emotion at a molecular level. My sister Jessica had been ecstatic when they'd accepted her booking. "They're the best in New England," she'd gushed at our family dinner 6 months ago. "Celebrities use them. They have a 2-year waiting list, but Marcus's father pulled strings to get us in." Marcus Whitmore's father was a prominent real estate developer who apparently had connections everywhere. Jessica had been dating Marcus for 3 years, carefully cultivating her relationship with his wealthy family, positioning herself as the perfect future daughter-in-law. This wedding was her coronation. I sat in the studio's waiting area, watching Jessica and her entourage arrive for the pre-wedding photo consultation. She swept in with her maid of honor and 3 bridesmaids, all of them dressed like they were auditioning for a reality show about rich housewives. Marcus followed behind, looking vaguely uncomfortable in designer casual wear that probably cost more than my monthly rent. "Rachel, you actually came." Jessica air-kissed near my cheek without making contact. "I thought you'd be too busy with your little business thing. I wouldn't miss your photo consultation. Well, you're here now." She glanced at her photographer, a distinguished-looking man in his 50s named Thomas Brennan, who held a portfolio that probably weighed more than I did. Though I should mention, we're being very selective about who appears in the actual wedding album. Thomas looked up from his notes with a slight frown. "I was under the impression this would include all immediate family members?" "Oh, it will. Most of them." Jessica settled into one of the studio's expensive chairs, her bridesmaids arranging themselves around her like ladies in waiting. "But we want only successful people in the album. People who reflect well on Marcus and me. This wedding is going to be featured in Boston Weddings magazine, and we need everything to look perfect." "I see." Thomas's expression remained professionally neutral, but I caught a flicker of something in his eyes. "And which family members did you want to exclude?" Jessica's hand fluttered toward me. "Rachel can be at the wedding, obviously. She's my sister. But we don't need her in the formal photos. Maybe some distant background shots during the reception if she's not too visible. We just want the album to showcase people who've actually made something of themselves." One of her bridesmaids, Courtney I think, giggled. "No offense, Rachel, but you do kind of look like you work retail or something." "None taken," I said evenly. My mother, who'd arrived late and missed this charming conversation, joined us looking flustered. Sorry. Traffic was terrible. What did I miss?" "We're just discussing the photo package," Jessica said brightly. "Thomas is going to create something absolutely stunning. Luminance has photographed 3 royal weddings and countless celebrity ceremonies. We're so lucky to have them." "Well, they're the best," my mother agreed, beaming with pride. "Nothing but the best for my Jessica." Thomas cleared his throat. "Speaking of the package, I should clarify our pricing structure. Your deposit covered the platinum tier, which includes 12 hours of coverage, 2 photographers and a premium album. However, I notice some discrepancies in the contract that need to be addressed." Jessica waved her hand dismissively. "Marcus's father handled all that. Whatever the price is, it's fine. We want the absolute top tier of everything." "Of course." Thomas consulted his tablet. "Though I should mention that Luminance Photography was recently acquired by a venture capital firm. The new ownership took effect last month, which means all existing contracts are being reviewed and updated. Some packages may be adjusted based on the new corporate structure." "Acquired?" Marcus frowned. "By whom?" Thomas glanced at me, and suddenly I understood the flicker I'd seen in his eyes earlier. "By Vertex Capital Management. They've been acquiring creative businesses across New England as part of a strategic portfolio expansion." The room went silent. My mother was staring at me with slowly dawning horror. Jessica's face had gone pale beneath her professional makeup. Even the bridesmaids had stopped their chattering. "Rachel." My mother's voice came out as a whisper. "Vertex Capital is your company?" "I'm the founding partner, yes. We've been expanding our creative services portfolio for the past 3 years. Luminance was one of our target acquisitions. They're incredibly profitable and have excellent growth potential." Jessica made a small choking sound. You own this photography studio? Vertex owns it. I'm the primary decision maker on all major acquisitions and operational changes. I looked at Thomas. I haven't reviewed the Whitmore contract yet. Is there a problem with it? Thomas pulled up a document on his tablet. The original booking was made 18 months ago under the previous ownership. However, the contract has some unusual provisions that were negotiated by the client's father. Under our new ownership structure, we're implementing more standardized pricing. I wanted to discuss whether this contract should be honored at the original rate or adjusted to reflect current market pricing. Let me see it. He handed me the tablet and I scanned through the contract Marcus's father had negotiated. It was aggressive, demanding premium services at mid-tier pricing, including unlimited revisions, rights to all raw photos, and a guarantee that their wedding would be featured in the studio's marketing materials. This contract is ridiculous, I said finally. It was clearly strong-armed by someone who thought they had leverage over the previous owner. We're not honoring these terms. Jessica found her voice. You can't do that. We paid a deposit. We have a contract. You have a contract that was signed under duress by the previous owner who was desperate for business. Under new ownership, we're within our rights to renegotiate or cancel with full deposit refund. I looked at Thomas. What's the current platinum package rate? $18,000 for the full premium service. And what did the Whitmore contract lock in? $11,000. With additional services that would normally cost another $7,000. I did the math quickly. Marcus's father had bullied the previous owner into a package worth $25,000 for less than half price. It was exactly the kind of entitled negotiation I'd seen wealthy men pull countless times, using their connections and perceived power to exploit small business owners. Here's what we're going to do, I said, looking directly at Jessica. We'll honor the original deposit, but the contract gets renegotiated to current market rates. If you want luminance photography for your wedding, it's $18,000 plus the additional services you demanded. Or we refund your deposit and you find another photographer. But we paid premium. Jessica's voice was rising toward hysteria. We specifically chose luminance because they're the best. You paid $11,000 for a package worth $25,000 because Marcus's father intimidated a struggling business owner. That ends now. Marcus's face had gone red. My father has connections. He knows people who what? Who can pressure me? I leaned back in my chair. Your father has connections in Boston real estate. I have connections in venture capital, private equity, and the entire New England creative services industry. Vertex Capital manages $300 million in assets. We own 17 businesses across 6 states. Your father's influence doesn't extend to my boardroom. The silence was absolute. My mother looked like she might cry. Rachel, I didn't know you were so successful. You always said you worked in business consulting. I do business consulting. I consult businesses on whether they should be acquired, restructured, or optimized for maximum profitability. Vertex Capital is the firm I founded 5 years ago with 2 partners. We've been quite successful. Founding partner, Jessica repeated faintly. Of a venture capital firm. Yes. I turned back to Thomas. Mark the Whitmore contract for standard pricing. If they want to proceed at market rate, we'll accommodate them. If not, process the refund and open up their date for other bookings. We have a waiting list. Thomas nodded, making notes on his tablet. Understood. And regarding the photo selection, the request to exclude certain family members from the album. We don't discriminate in our services based on a client's arbitrary judgments about people's success. If someone wants selective family photos, that's their choice for personal albums. But we won't be party to publicly humiliating family members by excluding them from formal wedding photography. I looked at Jessica. Every immediate family member gets equal representation in the coverage we provide, or you can find another studio. Jessica's carefully constructed composure crumbled completely. Tears started streaming down her face, destroying the makeup she'd spent an hour applying. You're ruining my wedding. I'm enforcing fair business practices at a company I own. Your wedding is entirely separate from this. But everyone will know. Boston Weddings magazine was going to feature us. They were going to feature you when you had a sweetheart deal that made your wedding look more expensive than it was. Now you can either pay market rate like everyone else, or find another photographer and explain to Boston Weddings why Luminance isn't available. Marcus stood up, his jaw tight. This is personal. You're doing this because Jessica excluded you from photos. I'm doing this because your father exploited a small business owner, and I won't allow that to continue under my company's ownership. Jessica's comments about me being unsuccessful were just educational. They helped me understand exactly how my family views me. My mother had started crying quietly. Rachel, honey, we didn't know. You never told us you owned a venture capital firm. I told you I worked in business consulting and acquisitions. I mentioned Vertex Capital at least a dozen times. You just weren't interested enough to ask questions because I'm not married to someone from a prominent family like Jessica. That's not fair. Isn't it? I stood up, gathering my bag. Thomas, send me the updated contract terms. I'll review them this week. If the Whitmores want to proceed at market rate, we'll provide our usual excellent service. If not, process the refund. Wait. Jessica grabbed my arm, desperation replacing her earlier smugness. Please, Rachel. We can't afford $18,000. Marcus's father negotiated that price because we couldn't afford the premium package otherwise. Then you shouldn't have booked the premium package. But it's my wedding. It's supposed to be perfect. Then maybe you shouldn't have told the photographer you wanted only successful people in your photos. I removed her hand from my arm. Maybe you should have thought about whether humiliating your sister in front of strangers was worth saving $7,000. Thomas stood up, clearly uncomfortable with the family drama unfolding in his studio. Perhaps I should give you all some privacy to discuss. That won't be necessary, I said. Jessica can contact your office with her decision about the contract. I have a board meeting in an hour. I walked toward the door and my mother followed. Rachel, please. Can we talk about this? What's there to talk about, Mom? Jessica made it clear that I'm not successful enough to appear in her wedding photos. You've spent years dismissing my career because I'm not married into wealth. You have nothing to discuss with me now except whether you want to pay market rate for photography services. But you own the company. You could just give her the discount. I could. But why would I? I met her eyes. Would you ask Jessica to give me a discount if she owned something I needed? Or would you tell me that successful people pay full price? She had no answer. I left the studio and walked to my car, checking my phone for messages. 3 texts from my business partners about the board meeting. 5 emails about potential acquisitions. A reminder about the investor presentation next week. My phone rang. Jessica. I answered. Yes. Please, Rachel. I'm sorry. I didn't mean what I said about successful people. You can be in all the photos. Please just give us the original price. I'm not giving you anything, Jessica. You spent years treating me like a failure because my life didn't look like yours. You excluded me from your wedding photos because I embarrassed you. That has consequences. But I didn't know you were rich. Exactly. You only care now because you know I have money and power. That tells me everything I need to know about your values. Mom is crying. She says we've ruined our relationship with you. You ruined the relationship when you decided I wasn't successful enough to photograph. I just made you aware that your definition of success was deeply flawed. I hung up and drove to my office in downtown Boston, the corner office on the 23rd floor with views of the harbor. My assistant had already prepared materials for the board meeting. We were discussing the acquisition of 2 more creative studios and a boutique marketing firm. By the time the board meeting ended, I had 47 messages from family. Apologies from Jessica. Tearful voicemails from my mother about family being more important than money. Even Marcus's father had somehow gotten my number and left a message about reconsidering the situation. I listened to exactly one, from my father who'd apparently just learned everything from my mother. Rachel, honey, I'm so sorry. Your mother just told me what happened at the photo studio. I had no idea you'd accomplished so much. Why didn't you tell us you were running a venture capital firm? Because you never asked, Dad. Because every time I mentioned my work, you changed the subject to ask when I was getting married. Because success only counted in our family if it came with a husband and social connections. I didn't call back. Instead, I sent a single email to Thomas. Process whatever decision the Whitmores make. Standard contract, standard pricing. No exceptions. His response came within minutes. They've chosen to proceed at market rate. Mr. Whitmore is writing a check now. Also, I want to thank you. The previous owner was going bankrupt because he kept accepting deals like this. Your acquisition saved 17 jobs, including mine. That was what mattered. Not Jessica's perfect wedding or my mother's tears or Marcus's father's connections. The fact that Vertex Capital had saved a struggling business and protected the livelihoods of talented artists who deserved better than being bullied by entitled clients. 2 weeks later, I received an invitation to Jessica's wedding. A formal card, nothing personal. I was invited, but my presence was clearly an obligation rather than a desire. I sent a gift, an expensive one because I could afford it, and declined to attend. The album that banned me from appearing in it wasn't worth my time. Neither was a family that only valued me after discovering my net worth. Thomas sent me photos from the wedding anyway. Professional courtesy from one business owner to another. Jessica looked beautiful. Marcus looked proud. The photos were stunning. Luminance really was the best in New England. And somewhere in those images was the empty space where I would have stood if my sister had valued me for who I was rather than what she thought I represented. That empty space was her problem, not mine. I'd already proven my worth to the people who actually mattered.